Live as if you were to die tomorrow. Learn as if you were to live forever. Mahatma Gandhi. I love that quote. And in fact, learning is something I'm sure that most of us agree is something you want to do your entire life. To be honest with you, I don't know how many of you want to live forever, but I do. I'd love to live forever because there's so much going on in the world today. I just want to see how everything is turning out. Anyway, this is a good way to get started. My name is Bill Attardi, and this is LearnersLive.com. And the session today is part of the learning process because I'll tell you a little bit about, before I get started on selling in the executive suite, what I'd like to do, that's the session for today. But what I like to do is explain to you a little bit of what I'm doing and what I have been doing for the last, I hate to tell you, this is 60 years for me. This is my 60th year in the lighting business. I was 5 years old when I started. That's my story and I'm sticking to it, okay? Anyway, about 25 years ago, I started teaching at Monmouth University and I did a blog called The Energy Watch. And what I tried to do there was to keep my customers and clients up to date on what's going on in the lighting industry. And it was much connected to the energy industry at that time, if you remember. Anyway, starting in January of this year, I decided to expand Energy Watch into a site called LearnersLive.com. And the reason for that is we're learning differently today. We're learning it in school. We're learning it every day. The future is changing, and we need to change to adapt to what's going on. Let me just walk you through exactly what LearnersLive.com website is, and very quickly, just to give you a sense. I start off with Did You Know, which is something that maybe you don't know about, or if you do know, it's something that will confirm what you already know. And then I have a home page, I have a blog, and the thing about the blog and some of the other pages is that I've got a lot of friends in this industry. When you're in a business this long, you have a lot of friends like that, and those friends see what we're doing here and want to contribute, like Jim Benya and Deb Burnett and Mark Ray, Bernie Erickson, Chris Brown, Jeff Hermer. I can go on and on. In fact, there are two contributions already on the site from Tom Farrell and from Frank Grovemeyer. So I've got a lot of help on this, and it's not just me, but we're going to do learning news. I call it learning news about the lighting industry and other important news items. E-learning showcase. This is where this particular video is going to be posted on e-learning showcase. I'm going to try to do this every single month and ask the contributors that I just mentioned to also come up with short videos, virtual training, 10, 15, 20 minutes. That's all this is going to be. And then I'm going to point out educational resources from the industry, from education, from academia, publications of learning, and the new technologies will also include some lighting, but it could be any technology that I think could hold your interest, okay? Let me just, maybe I can click on this page just to give you a sense as to, this is the home page of Learners Live, and it has everything that we just talked about. It has the blog, it has the e-learning showcase, learning news, featured products, new technologies, publications of learning, educational resources. The home page will have a snapshot of everything in the particular website. So I hope you can go to that. And every single Monday morning at 9 o'clock, I will send an email to all my subscribers as to what the content of this particular website is. And I hope you enjoy and get some really learning from all of it. Okay. So now, one of the things that I think is important to discuss, and that's artificial intelligence. It's becoming a major issue at the academic college level, and it's certainly going to be a factor in running businesses today. Gen AI has many different sources for you to go to access artificial intelligence. Basically, it's all about learning what you don't know and to confirming and changing what you do know. And this particular session and in fact, LearnersLive is going to concentrate a lot on what AI is doing and how it will impact your business. I tell my students that the world is changing. In fact, I say to them that they're all going to live to be over 100 years old. Medical science is advancing at such a rate that that's not unusual. So I tell them, get your act together because you're going to live a long time. And if you live a long time, you want to have some contribution. First of all, they have to be good at using artificial intelligence. It's a powerful search engine. It's got a lot of information that is necessary for you, not only in the academic world, but most importantly, when they leave college and they get into the workforce, they're going to need to use artificial intelligence in order to contribute to what their job is all about. So the one thing that this particular session is going to talk about is closing B2B sales, business to business sales, research and analysis, defining the quality of the customer, identifying customers' major problem areas, recommend most effective sales offerings. Actually using artificial intelligence to help you with the sales process is a very important part of what I like to emphasize. So now let's get to this particular topic, which is selling in the executive suite. That's an imposing building, imposing room, because the executives of the company, that's where they meet. That's where they discuss issues, discuss problems, discuss pain points, and make decisions. And those are the people that run businesses. And in order for you as a salesperson to get invited into that meeting, I think you need to follow these particular steps. First of all, you got to contact the right decision makers. You got to get invited into that particular meeting. And then you've got to establish an executive mindset. You have to feel like you're part of the executive team of those in the room. Once you do those two things, then here's the thing that you have to create in order to sell the individuals, the executives in that room. You've got to create relevancy. You've got to create an incentive to change. You got to create the confidence to make the necessary investment, because that's why you're there. You're asking them to invest in what you're selling. And then you got to create measurable results when it's all over. So let's take them one at a time. First of all, be conscious of the fact that the only reason you're in that room is to improve the business of your customer. That's your mentality. That's your focus. That's your overall strategic direction. Improve the business of your customer. Now, contacting the decision maker. How do you get into that room? How do you get invited? That's what it is. It's going to be an invitation from the owner or from the vice president or someone in the company that feels that you have something to offer. And when you're in that room, there may be someone with a title of Artificial Intelligence Information Officer. That may not happen with every account that you call on, but eventually I think every company is going to have such a position. That person is going to play a role in the decision-making process. And if you have that person in there, you know you're in a company that's expanding and is a company that is one of the leaders in the industry. So, do you know who they are? And why don't you know them? You need to do the hard work of researching the business. It's a competitive business. Everyone in there is very competitive. They understand all their strategic goals. Do you understand what their strategic goals are? Return on investment becomes a major factor in their decision making. So make contact. And here's a very important part. If you need to make contact, and you should with every single one of those executives, find out what medium they prefer that you contact. There's lots of ways to communicate with people today. Find out which one they prefer, and on an ongoing basis, that's your road to connecting with those particular executives. Remember, it's an electronic information age, and artificial intelligence is going to play a major role. As I indicated, I've been teaching at Monmouth University for the last 25 years and really, really enjoy it. That's my passion right now. And one of the things we're talking about is account-based marketing, account-based marketing. And here's what it is. It's identifying high-value B2B accounts, B2B accounts. And one of the terms I got, and I actually got it from the artificial intelligence, I did this entire presentation, I fed into ChatGPT, and it gave me a lot of things that I've added to this particular presentation, so you know. So I'm using it, and I'd like to say that if I'm saying that it's necessary to use it, then I should be using it as well. Customer-centric. Customer-centric is the new words that we're using in academia, and artificial intelligence is telling us that we need to understand our customers as thoroughly as we possibly can. It's the center of our business, the customers. That's what customer-centric is all about. We need to expand the knowledge about them, all of them. And hit the point number 3 is the key word there is meaningful communications on an ongoing basis. When you're communicating with executives, it can't be gibberish. It's got to be something meaningful, something that is of high interest level to them. And it's got to be consistent. Be consistent with the customers that you're calling on, and monitor every call. Make sure you take notes of the calls that you make and what you've accomplished. You have to know them, and more importantly, they have to know you on an ongoing basis. And they have to view you as someone that is contributing to the accomplishment of their strategic goals and activities. I think you all heard of the golden rule, correct? Treat others as you want to be treated. Well, when you're dealing with executives, you better use the platinum rule. Treat them the way they want to be treated. Point number 2, you're in. You made your point. You're invited to the executive suite. And now here's something that I think is essential for you personally, and that is to develop a mindset where you feel that you're part of the executive staff of that particular company. That's something you have to feel right into your bones when you walk into that room. Remember, they like to win, and they like to be treated by the platinum rule. You must accomplish their strategic goals. So you got to define the problem. You got to recognize what the pain points are. When you get in that room, think of yourself as a long-term, mutually beneficial, trusted advisor. That's what you are. You're part of the team. I'd like to make a point, because I've been doing this for a long time, calling on purchasing agents and buyers, as many of you may have too. Product and services is pretty much what they buy, right? And they focus more on price and delivery. Well, you're in the executive suite, and you're talking to executives, vice presidents, executive vice presidents, owners. They don't buy product and services. They buy ideas, ideas that improve their business. They're always looking for ways to improve their business. Ideas that help them grow, ideas that increase their revenue, ideas that reduce expenses that lead to increased profits, ideas that gain market share. and ideas that will beat their competition. That's what you're selling. Keep that focus. And if you're speaking the language of the executive, that's the language they want to hear. Think about the behavior style of chief executives. First of all, they're problem solvers, because every business has problems, and every business has to make the right decisions to solve those problems. They're extroverted in most cases. They're task-oriented. They like to win. They demand results, not only from their people, but certainly from their suppliers. They're direct, blunt, confrontational, could be obnoxious at times, okay? Most of the time, most executives are very well organized. They know the numbers. They have the data. They understand their business thoroughly. They are critical listeners. So what you have to say becomes very important. That's why the key points are necessary. You got to make them very quickly. Decisions have to be right. They have to get results. That's what executives expect. That's their behavior. They want to make the best decisions for their business, for their workforce, and more importantly, for their customers. They got a lot going on in their head, and problem solving and decision making, that's the executive mindset. Point number 3, relevancy. The executive in that room want to make sure you have to make it very clear to them that they benefit from what you're going to have to say. It's got to be clear. It's got to be concise. It's really managing an investment proposal. An investment proposal is what you're presenting. You're not selling product. You're not selling light bulbs or fixtures or widgets or anything. You're selling a business plan, an investment that they have to consider. And a return on investment becomes very important. It's a money deal. That's what happens in the executive suite. They do money deals. Their 3 business drivers are money, quality, and a competitiveness that they want to be better than anyone else. Remember, they're problem solvers. They're problem solvers. So that means you've got to identify what the problem is, but more importantly, what you are there for, and that is to bring the solution. As I said, it's a money deal. And if you're uncomfortable talking about investment proposals and financial hurdles and simple payback and return on investment, bring somebody from your company that is very knowledgeable in this area, because that's what the executives expect to hear from you. Tangible outcomes, cash flow, positive cash flow from what you're talking about. This is a term that I've used my entire life. I call it underperforming assets. This is the one thing executives absolutely don't want in their business, an underperforming asset. It's absolutely unacceptable. Operating costs in every business has to be efficient. We're almost seeing that now with the government getting more efficient. Eliminating waste is an executive responsibility. The people in that room know that they cannot live with an unacceptable asset, underperforming asset. They need to change. And sometimes the government pushes that change. Facilities are forced to comply, or they get faced with fines. So all of that becomes very important in the business, and that's something you have to highlight. Pay attention and solve some of those business issues that deal with investments. Point number 4, incentive to change. Incentive to change. We talked about the relevancy. Now it's your responsibility to give them the incentive to want to make that change. You've got to define what the value proposition is. Get the right cast of players. Make sure you address the right people in that room. The vice president of finance, the vice president of operations, the owner, vice president of marketing can also be a very big help in this area. Access, verification, and measurement is what you're going to be talking about. Act on improving those underperforming assets, The one thing that I'm absolutely sure you will get total agreement on is they want to eliminate underperforming assets. So stress that point and indicate that that's why you're there, to help them improve their underperforming assets. Can't get rid of them, but you can improve and make them positive. Measurable results, testimonials, bring testimonials. If you're asking them to do that, maybe you can show them in the past with customers that you've worked with that you've done that already. Remember, there are always external opportunities and threats. External opportunities and threats. The one point you need to make is to do nothing is not an option. That's the point you have to make with these executives. Once you present your particular proposal, make sure you say to do nothing is not an option. There are a lot of opportunities and threats in the marketplace, forces that are not under their control, and they have to work around those. And this is the area, whether it's finance, economics, competition, political, or technological, you're there to help them maneuver and take advantage of the opportunities and to minimize the threats that the outside forces present. Point number 5, create the confidence to invest. The confidence to invest. Collaborate. Decisions are in your control. Determine the project feasibility, what the positive aspects are. Develop a viable alternative. Establish the decision criteria. And most importantly, deal with the return on investment. If you're asking them to make an investment, make sure you're clear on what the return on investment is, because that's what runs businesses. Executive vision. Everything is changing. You know that, and I know that. Businesses have to be smarter. Competition is getting smarter. They know that, and they have to keep up. AI will make us all smarter. Running an efficient business is absolutely mandatory today. The economy, the government, they all are major decision drivers. We have to be on top of all of that. Remember one thing. You are there to show them something that maybe wasn't even on the screen for them to invest in. So maybe you bring in maybe you offer a low risk trial offer, something that will clearly articulate exactly what the savings and what the smart investment you're recommending will provide. And the last point, you got the job. Your project is done. You completely, in the lighting business, you completely changed the entire lighting system in that particular facility. Now it's time for the post-purchase evaluation and satisfaction. And you know what that's about. You've got surveys coming all the time, every time you do anything today. Collaborate with the most affected, business review meetings, make sure you communicate what the value is that they receive, maintain your executive relationships, gain access to that suite on an ongoing basis, and look for other opportunities. Let me just close by talking about the lighting industry. And whether it's commercial or retail or industrial, educational, automotive, for those of you that have been in the lighting business as long as I have, you know back when Edison and George Westinghouse were around, we talked about major categories like incandescent, fluorescent, halogen, CFL, HID, HPS. Well, today, and then we focused on quality of light, energy efficiency, and long life. All of that's out the window, isn't it? Except for quality of light, because LED has eliminated energy efficiency and long life. LED provides both of that as best we can, right? So now lighting is all about quality of light, selectability, control, smart lighting, intelligent lighting, and we're going to get into Li-Fi, I think, pretty soon. In any event, as I said earlier, buyers buy fixtures, light bulbs, controls. Owners buy sustainability. It's a money deal. They want to know what effect it's going to have on their business. And one of the things I've used my entire life is a thing called curb appeal. You want to call on accounts that are modern, growing, expansion companies, aggressive companies, profitable, progressive image, market share leaders. Those are facilities that I call curb appeal facilities. You got to know who they are. I hope they're your customers. If they are, you've got to get in there and find out what they're using. Small businesses are also potential customers. You want to upgrade their lighting system to LED. That's your goal. And there's a lot of opportunity. There's 100 billion space out there. And what I highlighted in green is 58% has changed to LED. 58% as of this year. Actually, last year. That means 42% have not changed. That's where the opportunity is. And if they haven't changed, those 42% that are still having a fluorescent lighting system, 86% of running that system is for energy. And that's an underperforming asset. And that should be changed. And that's why you're there, to change that. And you can go through the process with them. And it starts with the feasibility and the investment grade audit. And you can go through it one by one. Okay. Maybe not at that meeting, but eventually you're going to sit down with the people that are responsible for managing this upgrade. And you're going to have to go through every single one of those particular deliverables. And a good visual is a good way to explain exactly the process by which you're going to do that. Sustainability. That's what you're bringing into the executive suite. You want to improve the business with positive cash flow. That's the money deal. You want to reduce the operating costs and improve the underperforming asset. And bottom line is you want to create a quality environment for the workers in that organization. That's your goal. And those are the 6 steps for you to use in order to accomplish that. Waves of opportunity. That's what's available. And LearnersLive hopefully will be an asset to you as well, because what I intend to do is continue to post and put information on LearnersLive that will help you with your selling activities. Next month, we're going to do the SWOT analysis using artificial intelligence. So again, we do that. Every business, I think, spends time every year or every other year doing a SWOT analysis. I want to spend some time next month, about this same time, doing a SWOT analysis and bringing it up to date using artificial intelligence. And my good friend Chris Siegel from Satco has agreed to sponsor this particular session. If you have any questions, let me know. In fact, if you want to contribute to LearnersLive, I would fully appreciate anything you want to contribute, because I think every one of us has an obligation and a responsibility to aid us all in the learning process. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next month.